So, welcome everybody to another stream. This one's gonna be more like hanging out over a cup of coffee and discussing the future of what this space might bring over the next year, rather than like a tutorial, step-by-step based stream. We did a few of those over the week. You might have seen them. Maybe let me just start by welcoming everybody, and then we can recap what we did this week and what's coming up on Monday. That's the one that I personally most excited about. But the point is, today is the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT. Yay! Can we get some sound effects? Wait, it's not like I have a person for sound effects. I gotta press a button here. Let's do this. Yay! ChatGPT's 2 years old today. Okay, so this 30th of November 2022 was the day when this thing dropped. It's the day when I found out of the application. I was aware of. Yeah, let's not talk about like AI in general. Let's talk about ChatGPT here. I just wanted to point out that I actually stumbled across, I think it was, I don't remember which version it was, but I stumbled across DALL-E a few months earlier, and that was mind-blowing. Like, that was a moment. It was at a garden party in New York, and somebody just showed me an early access to DALL-E that they had, and I was like, wow. That was the first time when I kind of like dove into the AI rabbit hole. And then in one of my tech communities, ChatGPT actually popped up on the day of release. I dove right in. I was creating videos on 2 channels already. I had to cover it right away. I consider myself quite tech savvy with all the different softwares that I kind of like learned over the years. So I quickly picked up certain skills, created videos. People on the internet seem to enjoy that. I did more of that. Fast forward 2 years, and we are here with the channel. That is my personal story with ChatGPT. But I know everybody has an individual one. And that's the most interesting thing about all of this, that everybody here in chat, all of these people, all of these wonderful people have their very own story, how they stumbled upon this, how they're using it in their everyday lives, how they're abusing it in certain situations, how they're generating advantages, or literally just exploring and having fun. We see people all the way from people who are retired in their pensions playing around with this and creating little stories and little diaries, a little visual coloring books for their grandchildren, all the way to knowledge workers using this to double their output, triple their output in some cases. There's really a million use cases. But what I want to do today is not focus on the use cases. We do that week by week. What I want to do today is look forward a little bit, not look backwards. We do that a lot of times with challenges and use cases and, hey, this week's news, what happened, what's new. But today should be about directing our vision towards 2025 and what's coming up. So again, if you're looking for step-by-step tutorials, little prompting techniques, how to build a GPT, you can check out yesterday's stream. If you want to look at no-code automations, you can check out Wednesday's streams. If you want to check out the challenge that we issued and all the community activity, you can check out Monday's stream or the upcoming Monday stream. We have all of that. Today is going to be a discussion. And in this discussion, I hope to involve all of you here in chat. We have so many familiar faces, also so many new faces coming in here. Disrespectful, trying to figure out if there's a good AI that is better at philosophy. I don't know. Can anybody help the man out? I think Matthias' suggestion here with Opus is pretty good. If you look at some pet projects, it's some interesting projects like Terminal of Truth that uses 2 copies of Opus in the background, and it seems to be pretty good, but obviously not at the level that you might require here, Disrespectful. Other than that, good to see some familiar faces. Toyo, Gerhard, Stavros, all of these people, Aaron. We have Matthias and Dominique moderating here in chat, some event hosts from within our community. Dom runs all the creative and visual and Midjourney related events. Matthias runs a lot of the no-code events, currently teaching people how to build no-code chatbots in a video series, and everybody else in chat. Wonderful to have you here. But there's one more person. I actually have a guest on today's stream, and we're going to tackle some of these questions together. I'm going to put some questions out there. Some questions like, hey, what do you expect of ChatGPT in 2025? Where do you expect some of these agentic coding frameworks to end up in, 12 to 24 months? What do you think? Or and I'm going to answer them myself. Our guest is hopefully going to answer them. Our chat is going to answer them. And we're going to have a nice little discussion, just like a group of friends would have over a cup of coffee, or maybe, a glass of wine on Saturday night, because that's what it is for me right now, Saturday night. And we're going to have a little discussion around all this. Okay. So with all that being said, I want to open things up with one question. And then we're going to bring in our guest here and we're going to start our little discussion. So my question to you today is, I always like to open up the stream with a question to the entire chat. And today we're going to do, when did you discover ChatGPT? Because I think, and there's no shame in also like discovering it later on. People are busy. Like it might just say that, hey, you have more of a life than I do, or than I did at that point in time. I was like hyper obsessed with all technological things, and I was just like on a route to trying to like self-improve on as many dimensions as I can. One of them was learning software. So naturally I was plugged into many software focused communities. And naturally I was sitting inside of Discord chats every single day, like learning what I could. That's where I stumbled upon it. That's why I discovered it, the day of release. If I had maybe more of a full life in some other dimensions, I wouldn't. So for me, it was November 30th, 2022, when I discovered it, when I heard about it for the first time. When did you guys hear about it? Which month? Which year? Please share it in chat. I would love to see it. Many people discovered it in 2024, hopped on the bandwagon now, trying to inform themselves, trying to improve their skills with it. But also many people here, I know from the team, most people discovered it in early 23, kind of like spring 23. Matthias, Dom, when did you guys stumble upon it? Matthias, I believe for you it would be like January 23, I think. And then Dominique, I'm not exactly sure. I think similarly, maybe spring 23. Yeah, so we have Wilts Alexander sharing November 23. Yeah, we have December 22 HV. Yeah, December. I think if you discovered it in December, it says a lot about you. It says a lot about you and your preferences. So yeah, please keep sharing that. And meanwhile, let me bring on our today's guest. Casey, I will put you on here. All right. So are you ready to go? I'll switch the scene. And here is today's guest, also referred to, Casey, also referred to as Blazing Zebra on YouTube. What's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. As you can tell, like we're having a great time with chat here, hanging out a little bit. And yeah, basically, Casey is one of the YouTubers from our YouTube AI community. We have a nice little Discord group, very cozy atmosphere in here. And when I brought up the question of, hey, who wants to like discuss what's next for all of these tools, Casey was one of the first people to like jump up and say, hey, let's do this. So I was like, all right, looking forward to it. Yeah,
Pleasure to be
Casey,
here.
want to tell us a little bit about like what kind of like just content you create and what your focus is, or like what your vision is for your videos in general?
Yeah, I pretty much do how to. So just learning, I'll take something and try to dissect it and try to learn from it. A lot of my tutorials are about how to use these tools to learn. It started out in marketing because I ran a marketing agency for 10 years. It was a team of about 15, 20 people. And like you were saying, when ChatGPT rolled out, it was December 2022. It was about a week after it rolled out that my buddy texted me about it, and I was just all over it. And didn't really know what to do because my marketing agency, we focused on creating long form blog posts for SaaS companies. So this hit us. I kind of knew something like this was coming around. There were other tools that were getting better and better. I was watching GPT-2 quite a bit. There was a big New Yorker article about that. But then I couldn't look away, so I quickly rolled up my marketing agency, shut it down, and really started to focus on this as much as possible. I had been doing stuff in AI earlier, just as a hobby, training neural nets and different things. But yeah, so I started the channel, and a lot of it was content created, but now it's getting more into automations and learning, and just sort of anything that piques my interest, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing. And that's also like right away, like I like that about your channel, that you also focus more on the how-to side. and less on the what is the the biggest news story, or what is the biggest drama going on right now. I think there's value to that too. There's a lot of these. I think a lot of channels focus on something that I like to call AI gossip, and then there's
Yeah.
channels I think that are maybe a bit more like us, where we're like, okay, what are the how tos, what are the step by steps, what are the workflows, what are the automations, and there's value to both of them. But it's good to have you on here, as we do similar things in that regard. um
Exactly. Yeah, yours was one of the first channels I came across. Yours and Dave Shapiro. I saw people talking about Dave in the chat. I worked closely with him for many, many months. He was sort of my mentor for a while. I know him really well, so it's cool to see people mentioning him.
Amazing, amazing. Did he invite you into our little community?
It was actually Matt Wolf. I met up with Matt Wolf at a conference, and he and I connected, and that's how that
Ah,
connection happened. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah, actually,
yeah.
Matt, I believe Matt and I were the two who started the Discord server. I
Okay,
think
cool.
it was like in January 23 or something. We're like, hey, we gotta have a place where we bring all of these like different creators together. And yeah, so it's been a pretty wild ride. Matt was also one of the first people. Yeah, he was one of the people from the first cohort on YouTube, like really leading into this.
Oh
And he
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So amazing. So amazing to have you on here. Also interesting to hear about your early experiences with it. And like what personally resonated with me there was you pointing out that you kind of immediately rolled up your agency. Like what came to my mind is that I don't think I was like very conscious of it at the time, but I remember when I saw the DALI demo, instantly it occurred to me that, hey, probably doing a video production company over the next years is it's not very future proof. Let's just put it that way. And like also offering like social media marketing to companies and everything. I was like, hey, I gotta move up the stack. That's what I thought to myself. Like I can't just be producing for others, because all of a sudden some of these tools will be able to do that and automate that really well, clearly from like, hey, like these tools are insane. And if I manage to get in front of the camera and like do all that, which comes with its own problems, then
Yes.
I will maybe move a few years ahead of the trend. Like who knows? Like already we're creating all these avatars. Like anybody on this channel, I think everybody in chat has seen the little quiz that we prepared. We prepared a little quiz where you have like 8 different outcomes, and at the end of the quiz you get like AI resources that we have, free resources, and there's a AI avatar of me presenting to you why you should use them and like how to use them and stuff. And man, it's you know yourself, like these tools are getting really good. The voices are indistinguishable. The avatars are like a 6 or 7 out of 10. And
Right.
yeah, so we might be already on our way out. But until then, we're gonna be live streaming. We're gonna be creating content, and
Exactly. Right.
we're gonna be
Or
discussing all
anybody
of
who
this.
knows how to do that already and clone themselves and create 10 channels, be ahead of the game, I guess. I don't know. I don't think
Yeah,
anybody knows. It's like everybody I talk to is like, you talk to a coder. One of my friends is way up into building some of these massive models, and he was like, my job isn't safe. And then you talk to anybody from that to like a social media person to an attorney, and it's like everybody's feeling that. But I think just the more you use it, the more you're ready, and you start to see things. And maybe this gets into our 2025 predictions. There's starting to, I feel like there's things where these it's going to take other breakthroughs to really be this. The large language model, obviously very, very powerful, but in my opinion is, to get to some of these where like, some of the really futuristic things that people talk about, I think is going to, not many breakthroughs, maybe it's just one or two,
yeah,
and that
maybe
could
just
happen
that.
next year. I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's certain things that large language models don't do especially well, that if you spend a long time with them, it starts to become apparent, I think.
Absolutely. So like, you just don't have the 100% reliability that you kind of need in
Exactly.
many use cases. I think that's one of the big ones.
Right. Even if it's 95%, that's still wrong 1 out of 20 times, and it's
It's kind
like
of a
not a
lot.
good experience.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And like wrong in a very confident way. So, so
Right.
All right, so you brought up some good points there. Like one of them is this, like, breakthrough needed versus just something we already have improving is, I think, the other bucket. So
Yeah.
maybe we can start our discussion, and you also brought up these like agentic coding frameworks and how they have been developing. So maybe that's where we can start our discussion. Again, just for anybody who just came in, for all the new viewers, we're basically doing a little discussion on what's next for these tools, what's next for ChatGPT, what's next for these agentic coding frameworks, what's next for the creative tools that largely seem to be struggling to find a concrete use case. I'm concretely looking at all the video generators, they're really impressive, but like, what do you really use them for? Like Kanye West makes music videos with them, but like beyond that, like, what are they going to evolve into? I have some thoughts here, and these are all the things we're going to be discussing today. Also, welcome to the channel, Mahesh. Great to have you as a member here. Yeah, happy to go into some of the questions here, but first, let me just kick off the discussion by maybe diving into these agentic coding frameworks. As you seem to be interested at, you have a background in this, and I know you have some thoughts on this. I do too. We actually, inside of our membership, we had a founder from one of these big agentic coding frameworks come in, and we had a 1 hour long discussion where basically my main line of questioning to him was around, where do you see this going next? Like, how is this going to affect both coders, but also companies that need all these functionalities? And basically, I can tell you, like the executive summary is that just the value of software is going to be cut into like by a factor of 1,000 or 10,000. And a lot of things that currently you need to pay $20, $30, $40 per seat for are just you're going to be able to hire a freelancer that is like a whatever dev. Like in his case, like that, the company was Pythagora. They also like sponsored that as at one point. I'm sorry. So I just want to point that out. But there's also Replit Agent. There's also Bolt. There's also, I think there's also obviously Cursor, and there's
Right.
Windsurf from Codium. So
Yep.
there's many of these popping up, and they're super useful already. But obviously,
Yeah.
this was kind of just a starting shot to this race. And if you really play this out, then you will have one person who will be able to build custom tools for companies, for corporations. And if they need a feature, they pay him $200, $500, and he just adds the feature, and they own the whole thing. They don't need to pay subscriptions. There's going to be a whole new economy of people. It's going to be sort of like a
And it'll probably work better for them than,
custom.
not only the cost, but the use case, the implementation will be completely customized.
Exactly. So let me just, that was a lot of points there that I brought up. But let me just ask you this: like, what do you think is something like a Bolt or a Replit Agent or any one of these, like a Cursor, going to look like if you give it another 12 months of testing, of them gathering data, of them developing new features without any major breakthroughs? Let's not assume that there's going to be some, seismic shift in what's possible. But what do you think are these going to develop into? What are they going to look like a year from now? Do you have any ideas
Well,
around that?
I think this was right on in my notes that I had, that I think we're at the very tip of the iceberg for this, and that these tools are just going to get better and better. And the skill that I'm actively working on developing would be sort of the product manager skill. So instead of learning the nuances of Python, which I love, I have a good time learning it, but I sort of feel like my time is better spent these days learning how to plan out, how a piece of software should work, and how all of the different objects should relate to each other, and that the AI will be able to take care of the coding fairly
Yeah.
quickly. But I feel like there's going to be I worked with many SaaS companies. I worked a lot with Salesforce and had a couple of unicorns that we helped get from early stage startup to, you know, unicorn status. So I've been around the SaaS world quite a lot with my agency, and I feel like they're going to go through a transition that like major media has gone through in the past whatever decade or
Ah,
2 decades, where when blogs first came out, when you first heard that word blog, it was like, oh, it's this funny little thing where I journal about my day or something like that. And then there becomes like Huffington Post, or there becomes these ones where it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's no longer just like this little hobby. So I think we're like way on that early side of this. There's a term I like to that I've heard, I don't know where it came from, but micro-SaaS. So
Mm.
instead of this Salesforce, you're going to be able to, anybody who is good with spreadsheets, before, will be able to spin up their own Salesforce, for their, medium or even large size company a lot faster than they could even implement a paid version of Salesforce. So I feel like that's the model as we've watched mainstream media now is no longer really that valid to many people. I think the same thing's going to happen with these big SaaS companies with, for sure, like Salesforce, where it's just sort of a database. But even all the way to like Zoom or different, Discords and these types of things could be disrupted. And then there's a ton of opportunity for like the AI hacker, the person that knows a little bit of code, a lot about project management. I think that could really open up and be a massive, really fulfilling career.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I think this is I fully agree with that. I think there's a space is going to open up between what currently are, like, I think Slack is a good example. It's just a communications app. It's just a chat app. Nevertheless, if you have hundreds of employees, you have a $10,000 per month bill just to have access to Slack. Like, there's
Right.
going to be a point, I think, in the not too far future. I would even, make the assumption that this might be realistic within a year or so, where you can hire some like the founder referred to it as, it's gonna be like a new coding language. So now you have a Python dev, for example, but then you're gonna have a Bolt dev, so to say, and the Bolt dev is going to offer his services all across the internet, or maybe even little bit of track record, and you're going to be able to pay him $2,000-$3,000 to build you a simple version of Slack that has all the security measures, because that's one of the things I think they're gonna not just, like, I know for a fact that they're already looking at the security as one of the core things to be solved here, because all these apps right now they're not waterproof, let's just say that, in terms of security. But like within a year, I think that's going to be figured out. So instead of paying $10,000 a month to Slack as a medium-sized company, you're going to be able to hire a dev for a few thousand, and he's going to build a custom Slack for you from some sort of like SaaS boilerplate that already exists inside of Bolt, and he's going to add a few features, and he's going to hook it up to everything in your company. Everybody's going to have it, and there you go. Right there, you have a saving in the 6 digits per year for a lot of companies. That's just a very simple example. But my point is, there's just certain building blocks that are not in place yet. Why this is not possible yet, like the security aspect, like a lot of the security surrounding these quickly built apps, they're just not on a level where you could trust it with a few hundred employees. Whereas Salesforce does provide that, and you can just have that peace of mind. But I think within a year, it's going to be there, and you're going to have a new class of developer that might not even know how to code properly. Let's be real. Maybe he just knows the basics. He knows how these different concepts work in theory, and he knows how to use a tool like Bolt or Replit Agent or whatever really well, and then he can build something that might cost 100x more. So that would be that's not even a prediction. It just seems so clear that this is happening, unfolding right in front of our eyes right now.
Yeah, and I think there still will be a learning curve where it won't necessarily be the code, and I think it'll be more accessible, but there will be, there's a lot of different hacks out there. AI Jason, do you ever watch his channel?
Oh yeah, yeah, he's
He,
great. Super unique stuff, huh? I love it.
yeah, he released one of the cursor workflow that I highly recommend that video, because he talks about coding. I always would mess with it and start like, hey, let's write a script. It's the first thing. Let's like write a program that does X, and then you start perfecting it and doing better and better with it. He kind of takes a reverse approach where he uses the AI to plan everything out and to go so far as to build out the folder structure before he writes even any code at all, and then kind of fills in, it's like a coloring book almost, where you draw the thing first and then you fill in all of the the code, the different things, that the scripts that would go into each folder.
Yeah.
And so that's a skill that I think folks are going to need to develop. That's very different than coding was. So there's still a lot to learn, and there's no one to teach you right now. A lot of people ask me, like, what books should I get? And it's like,
It's like,
I don't
haven't been written
know.
yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very, very. I agree. Very interesting. So a lot of that is kind of like having a little bit of vision,
Yeah.
rather than like concrete skills or like software skills. But
Vision,
yeah,
creativity. Yeah. Innovation, seeing what's possible. How, so many people I talk to are like, oh, I wish it could just do this. And it's like, well, wait a minute, focus on all the stuff that it can do, because you're always going to want some more, and don't get caught
yeah,
in like, as soon as it can, be truly agentic, then my business model will be, validated or something. But it's like, we would have killed for this type of thing just whatever 2 years ago, right? So focus
yeah.
on what it's good at now, and that other stuff will come sooner or later, and you'll be ready for it.
Yeah, it's true. Just the problem with that is like often people they see something come out and so much of it is very heavy on the marketing, very heavy-handed on the marketing that there's a disappointment that happens once they get their hands
Oh,
on it. And then you kind of like I think just not to dive into this topic, but I think the crypto space is a great example for that, where it's been just like overpromise, 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 and then even if somebody like dove into that rabbit hole and got their hands on some of the protocols and was like, oh, let me transfer ETH from one wallet to another, and then you get hit over the head with like an $80 fee while transferring $50, and you're like, hold up, this is supposed to be the future of money? Like, what are you talking about? I sent $50 and it cost me 80. This is ridiculous. And then you tap out and you form an opinion on the thing. I think a lot of that might be a bit more extreme, but I think a lot of that happened with, for example, advanced voice mode with ChatGPT this year. Because it was like, whoa,
mhm.
like it's gonna, we're gonna have a universal translator that can use your camera. It will help blind people see and navigate the world, no problem. And then, radio silence. And when it came out, it basically was lacking 80% of the features that they were
Yeah.
advertising. Like all of the insane stuff was missing. And what was there was a better voice model that, could imitate certain voices well, but then it was pretty lobotomized too. So it's like mismatched expectations and promises.
Yeah, so much of it, the expectations are so high, and you get in there, and so many of these tools. I was just thinking about the Rabbit, the R1. Remember that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
launch,
yeah. And
and how
everybody returned
excited
that thing, huh?
everybody was for that? And I was like, I don't know if that's really possible what they're showing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So I hope the industry learns from that, because I think, for sure in the long run is going to hurt the industry if they keep overhyping and under delivering, giving out these half baked things, and rushing to market. But the Bitcoin, or the crypto analogy, is a good one. It's one I thought a lot about, even just thinking about this call, because you could sort of draw a line between Bitcoin and ChatGPT, and then there's all these other things which are like the altcoins or whatever, and
Oh yeah,
and they
yeah.
have all these big
That's a great analogy. I never
promises.
thought of that. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
And it's like, well, are they really going to be able to do that thing that they talk about? They kind of can on paper.
Yeah.
They certainly can, but like, is anybody going to use it? Ethereum was supposed to be this like world computer, but did that ever really happen? I don't know. um I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
think,
no, definitely not in the way people portrayed it. I think that's a great analogy. Yeah, yeah. You kind of have ChatGPT is the Bitcoin, and then you have all of these like layer ones like Claude and Gemini and Llama and whatever, sort of like okay, they're like legitimate and they work, and then you have like all the shit coins with like all the different things that pop up.
exactly.
The difference being here that obviously there is some sort of value behind like some of the subscriptions. Like, hey, no doubt, like they figured out a lot of the interfaces and stuff, but yeah, it's just the marketing can be a problem. Okay, so let's get back to like the practicalities of it. So we talked about a little bit about these agentic frameworks. I want to point out one more thing that was really interesting that I learned in my interview with one of the founders of these companies, and he pointed out that like recently, actually, the release of Bolt has been in everybody's eyes has been a real breakthrough in terms of what's possible with front ends of applications, because it just works fantastically well for front end only applications, and that they actually shifted their entire thinking about how to develop the next version of their tool, where it's going to be two separate processes. One for the front end, where they do something similar to Bolt, and one completely separate set of agents that build the back end. And then they have to make it plug it into make it work together, and that's the big challenge. So that's another. So like just right there, there's a clear roadmap to making these tools way better than they are right now, and they're already
Yeah,
quite capable. So I just kind of like wanted to highlight that next to everything else we've been talking about. These things
that's
are gonna get real
cool.
good.
What have you thought much about interpretability? So, like Claude, I think is leading, and Anthropic is leading this charge where they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on in this black box of the large language model.
Ah,
And that I think is probably going to be more important in 2025 than the large language models getting better and better. You know, they
yeah,
will, but it's like, you know, where does
marginal.
that really get us sometimes? Yeah, it's marginal, or even if it's way better, you know, people are struggling to put, you know, the O1 preview to good use sometimes. So if it gets 10x better than that, you know, obviously it'll be useful, but I think understanding what's going on behind the scenes, if Anthropic can crack that, I'm guessing the other labs are working on it as well, but Anthropic is, I think, has been the most public about it because it goes with their safety,
Yeah.
you know, their safety, whatever focus. And, you know, understanding, and I think they are making some progress into what's going on in there. And then in that way, they can control it better, you know, so you can get to some of those more reliable outcomes, you know, that'll be repeatable, you know, that you can set up some great custom instructions and have a good output every time, not just, you know, three
Most
out
of
of
the time.
five times or something
Yeah.
like that. So that I'm really excited about that. If I'm hopeful that that interpretability, you know, if that gets 2x or 10x better than it is now, that could be some major progress into how we control these and the whole all the safety issues and things like that. Alignment issues go along with that as well. So
Okay. That's an interesting point that I didn't even have on my list of like talking points today. Yeah, they're the ones that are very public about this. Um, it's weird. Like they're I just have to laugh because like their marketing campaigns are like, hey, if you know, you know, and then a Claude logo, and like, okay, what does this do? It's like their marketing is quite terrible to the outside world, I would say. But then like on the nerdy stuff and the stuff that we like to talk about here, they're leading in many ways. So I don't know. I think you summed it up pretty well there, and I have one more thing that I would like to point out that relates to Claude. Have you gotten a chance, or like, have you heard about the model context protocol that they released a few days ago? This is something completely new. I
I've
can show.
heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
Okay, so we're just getting into this with the team, and I've also my knowledge maybe constitutes of like 30 minutes of poking around in this thing, but basically it's a way to hook up external tooling to a LLM interface. So you can think of it as like just using Claude or using ChatGPT, and then underneath you have a little drop down of different tools that you can directly connect to it, like an external action that works directly with your chat. Um, uh,
Mm.
and and so like we already started like some research tasks within the AI Advantage to like try this thing out and throw different things at it. But I think open sourcing something like this is pretty amazing. Just like open sourcing computer use is pretty amazing. Have you gotten a chance to look at computer use, or like have you um
I got in there a little bit and realized that like what it was really good at wasn't really a problem I was facing currently, you know,
dude,
like
it's not good at anything. We played with it.
yeah, it's
let me
it's
let
like
me spoil
it
it for
can
you. It's
yeah, I
not
was
good
like,
at
I don't
anything.
really need to like organize my files on my computer. You know, it's like that was sort of like the best case scenario. So
Yeah.
those are the things where there's so much I think we could just do with the base models. It's like I could focus for a year, even if nothing got any better on what we have currently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I tend to wait a little bit. Maybe it's a mistake, but I'll wait, a few weeks until I see something really getting traction. Then I'll dive in and be like, okay, that's really cool, because like you said, that hype just has gotten me too
Yeah.
many times, and I spend 3 days getting into something, and I'm realize this really isn't ready for prime time yet.
One,
So
dude, this computer use thing, it was a bit of a disappointment because I was really like, Claude didn't hype it up, but I hyped it up to myself. Like when I saw it,
yeah,
I was like, this is incredible. This is the type of thing I've been waiting for from
exactly.
OpenAI. And then like we got in there, I even like scheduled an event for it in the community. I was like, hey, we're gonna do a deep dive on computer use. We're gonna like find all the things this thing can do. And then like it was so sobering because the result was basically like even the most basic use cases that we found for this, like, hey, transferring data from a page to Excel sheet or filling out a form online, it's so damn unreliable that I would deem it useless. It's super
Yeah,
interesting. It's cool to see, but it couldn't even like one of the few use cases that we tried was like, hey, just go on these like different NBA sites and transfer the data into a sheet, into a spreadsheet. And I ran it like 15 times, and 5 out of those 15 times it just spawned up random stuff, and it started doing
yeah,
the column, it mislabeled the columns and like started a second sheet instead of doing the first one, and I was like, okay, I need better prompting. So I worked on the prompting, worked a bit better, but then it went off the rails in completely different ways. I was like, okay, maybe I need to flesh out the process step by step. I did that with the better prompting, and then it started like hallucinating completely new things. I was like, okay, I'm giving up. This is not worth 100 hours of my time. It does not work
yes.
yet, and let's hope it works better in the future. Yeah. So just quick share on my experience with that thing.
Yeah, it's similar to mine. Like my buddy and I, we were texting each other. He's building this software tool, and that's exactly, I think everybody's waiting for that. It's almost that promise of that true, full, 100% agentic. If you can control your computer, you can get it to do a lot of things that it can't do now. So my buddy we were actually texting each other like at the same time when it first came out,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then I went for a walk and I loaded in, the announcement, and I kind of just I love to just chat with these different tools, whether it's, I pretty much use ChatGPT while I'm walking to explore. I kept asking it, what is this good at? What's the best case scenario? And it kept coming back with like, well, it can kind of sort of, move some files around on your computer maybe. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait for a better a better selling point before I dive in.
Oh man, it's really, yeah. I think it hit the vision that a lot of us here in chat and in this room are exactly like, that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for this agentic future where you come up with a task, you're the mastermind sitting there with your little cat, and you're like, hey, agents, go do this, and they just figure out a way to do it and they get it done. But that day is not today, that's for sure.
I know. I was just setting up a MailChimp account, and I was like, I really just wish it could do this. It doesn't need to do anything more than like,
Oh
can you
yeah,
just set up a MailChimp for me and then maybe connect it to Patreon? It's like not that hard,
no,
but we're still a ways away from that. And that's where I feel like we almost will need another breakthrough. I don't know that large language models alone are going to really be able to like do some of this stuff. Maybe people disagree with me, but it's like we've been waiting for this agent now for about a year and a half. I feel like everyone's like, it's right around the corner. It's right around
yeah,
the corner. And don't get me wrong, it can do really cool stuff, especially if you connect it with Make or Zapier, get fancy with that stuff. But just like on its own in the wild, autonomously. And then once it can do that, like, is that AGI? And then once it's AGI, how soon is it going to be, super intelligent?
yeah.
Probably pretty quickly after it. So,
So,
gotta,
interesting point there. Like, do you feel like we moved forward in 2024? Do you feel like we edged closer towards that vision? Or do you think that kind of like GPT-4, like, because a lot of people are, making the argument that GPT-4 was even more capable than GPT-4o is now, So like the last 12, sure, like we have more token output and we lowered the prices. But like just in terms of like ChatGPT output quality, it might not be the biggest change. What is that's just like playing devil's advocate here, you know? But like,
Yeah,
what's your
no,
take?
I would say, I tend to believe that they've gotten better. It's just, but it's like, but it's, marginal. It hasn't been that, like, you remember that graphic where it's like, here's a tiny pixel and then this is like a
Oh yeah,
thousand times bigger.
GPT-4 like this,
Yeah,
and then
it didn't feel quite like that to me. The biggest
yeah,
wins, I think, are like the UX. So, like, I think Artifacts and Claude Projects was the first like UX thing where I was like, oh, this is great.
yeah,
And then, there's the Canva feature, and I would say that like Notebook LM is basically just a different UX
yeah.
for a large language model, and that type of stuff. I think that's where I'm gonna, if I had to place a bet, I think next year is going to be an explosion of all these different UX. Because, I thought Artifacts was great. I was like, how could this get any better? And then, of course, the Canva came out, and it's like, oh, now you can edit the artifact. I didn't even think of that. Or you could like highlight a piece and focus all of its compute just on that paragraph.
Yeah.
Say like, fix this paragraph or this snippet of code or whatever. So that type of thing, not only from the large labs, but from these, AI hackers, from people who are in there building, I think, the wrapper app of just like some good instructions and things like that, that's going to go away and be replaced by these smarter, different UX applications.
Yeah, here's my thing that it's just a fact, but I say this like all the time. Basically, all of the hackers are gonna figure out the best like niche use cases, and the ones that like really succeed, OpenAI is just gonna, they're the whale that just opens up the mouth, and they're gonna slowly move ahead and just gobble all of them up, and they're gonna appear as a new feature release. And that's basically
Yeah.
what has been happening, right? Like with many things that we see in there.
That
Um,
sounds about right. So hopefully you're just small enough that they don't care about you, yet big enough that you can make a
yeah.
bunch of money, I guess. I don't
Yeah, that's the
know.
problem with all the wrapper projects, I guess. But there is one big release that I would like to talk about, which is the release of the O1 series of models. And I personally think like this is a thing. I always talk about stickiness here on the channel, and this is a feature that has been very sticky for me because I return to it not on a daily but on a weekly basis, at least like once or twice a week. I use O1. Concretely, I use O1 Mini for rewriting. It's just the
Cool.
best rewriting tool out there. And yeah, what do you?
The one use case for that
Yeah.
I don't see really very many people talking about is that the response window is like, I haven't hit the limit yet. So, it was something everybody was talking about, with GPT-4, especially in the content world. Like, I want to write a blog article that's longer than, whatever, 500, 700 words, which is the standard output of all the models.
Yeah.
In the O1 preview, you can ask it, write me something that's 3,000 words long, and it'll write a very good 3,000 word,
Okay.
piece. And so the reasoning obviously is huge, but there's also other side benefits to it. I feel like the context window is pretty big, and that response window. So anytime you need like where that 500 to 700 word response feels like a limitation, it's great for that,
Okay.
very useful.
Thanks for sharing that. Like for me, that sparks one thing that has been brought to my attention multiple times, which is the fact that if you need long code snippets or like if you need to generate more code than Sonnet 3.5 can do, then that's really when you use O1 preview because of its output token limits. Yeah, now it's sort of like clicked for me. Thanks for highlighting that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
use that
yeah.
more.
Try it out on code. I haven't really done it a ton with code, but definitely with, just as a test, I was doing one of my coaching calls with my group, and I was like, let's see how far we can push it. And it was like we were having a whole conversation separate and just watching it like continue to write and write and write. And it
Amazing.
wasn't bad stuff. Like it's not like fluff. It's very intelligent. So yeah, that's was one of the things where there's this debate of like, can it come up with its own ideas, or is it just sort of regurgitating, all of the internet? And to me, it feels like, I mean, it comes up with some pretty novel stuff if you give it a bunch of, one of my favorite things to do is just give it a bunch of random things. Search out like, I'll ask ChatGPT, list like 5 or 10 completely random, unrelated topics. And then I'll put those into Perplexity and grab, whatever, a
Nice.
Perplexity
That's
response
cool.
from each. And then I'll copy all of that into O1 Preview and say, write something that connects all of these random things. And in that way, you can kind of like start to imagine, I call it imagining the unimaginable. So then it starts making these connections. Like I did one and it like compared bubble wrap with like physics, string theory physics. And it started to make these connections where bubble wrap is like this metaphor for these like intense physics things. I'm like, I think that's pretty, new thinking. Like, I don't think it got that from the internet anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Dude, that is I love what you just shared there with that technique. Yeah, you can totally. So yeah, so you can just generate new variables and then let it remix those in like new ways. And it might not be the level of original thought that for example here in chat the discussion was around, as in like, it might not be at the level of philosophical thought, but it can certainly combine 2 or 3 variables in a way that you've never seen before, and that might take a serious amount of brain power to even come up with. um, I always think about it in a way that, at the end of the day, it's a transformer, so it's extremely good at transforming things. And that might seem obvious, but one of the things that I've been teaching from the very beginning is just if you just raise your awareness of all the different file formats it can do, you'll realize that it can easily turn, like certain applications turn a PDF into a song, right? That's a transformation right there. But you can also do it at a more granular level where you transform a little poem and 10 random facts into a series of business ideas, right? You can transform like the random things into this different format. So just that framework can be so helpful. And your technique is a beautiful addition to that. Yeah, just let it generate
Thanks,
random stuff and hope for the best. And
brother.
and there's original thought. I love it.
And worst case, yeah, it gets your mind thinking in different ways. And I mean, I do it for fun, but I think that creativity is going to be a pretty key element going forward. The more innovative we can be, the farther we can push these models, the better off we're going to be in our careers. That's I think the hardest thing for it to do. It's going to be maybe one of the later things that it ends up doing. But I don't know. I think there's something with that. Just using it creatively that will be very far-reaching. It'll be one of the last things that it automates, I guess.
I guess, yeah. I guess unless there's like some major breakthrough, right? And then especially the curation of it, like it takes taste, which seems
That's
almost
it.
impossible. I don't know. Time will show. I just want to point out Justin coming in hot here, saying "Yo potatoes" here in chat. What's up, potato man? Like I'm not sure where, I'm not sure what's up with this message, but I like it. Thanks, good to have you here, man. All right, so like let's round this out. So like we talked about the various like releases in ChatGPT and the agentic frameworks, and let's round out this section here. There's a few more points we can talk about, but basically they did release several things this year, right? That are completely new. The advanced voice mode is something that I don't think anybody had on their bingo card when 2023 was ending, right? That seemed like something that is way further out. And fair enough, all the marketing and the Scarlett Johansson stuff, and
Yeah.
and then the limited features on release, and now slowly they're introducing all these abilities to like actually integrate into coding apps, etc.
And related to
Nevertheless,
that,
it's
not to
pretty
cut you
amazing.
off, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
really related to that is the podcast feature of Notebook LM. That is pretty mind
Ah,
blowing. The
yeah.
way that they can unpack and tell stories and react in very human ways to things that you put in there. So that advanced voice mode and that Notebook LM podcast feature, that feels different to me than the large language models of
100%.
2023.
And I think good that you bring that up, because I think that is like the breakout app of the year. Like that is, one of the
Yeah.
unexpected ones that everybody just seems to be using. I know that even here in chat between Stavros and Aaron, I know they're both in education. We also have Gerhard here in chat. He's also working, at a university in the UK, and like Notebook LM is just one of the things that is literally transforming education like today, and the way people like like take in data. For me, I absolutely love it to retain it, right? Like to remind myself of what I have learned. So like first you just load the sources and you talk to it and everything. But then once you generate the podcast, putting that on your phone and listening to that on your commute or walk or whatever, that really locks it in for me. Like when you return to it, right? It's the
Yeah,
best
this is what
way
my
I've
video
ever.
on my video next week is all about, this using Notebook LM to for rapid skill acquisition. So it's a lot of that stuff, a lot of
Sick.
different
I
phases.
mean,
Yeah.
that's a topic. That's a topic I absolutely love. Okay, cool. Looking forward to that one. We'll check it out. But yeah, I think Notebook LM is one of the standout ones. Uh, yeah, as Aaron puts it here, next level learning. I absolutely agree. So that's interesting. Advanced voice is interesting. I think O1 as a series of models is interesting because clearly there's a difference in output than just standard LLMs. And here's what I would say. Here's my prediction. I think in 2024, a lot of this is going to converge, right? Because now you have to be aware of the fact that advanced voice is there and what it can do, and its ability to like. There's a lot of like specific prompts that you need to be aware of in order to use them with advanced voice. Like, hey, you can use it to simulate conversations, or you can use it to simulate a discussion, job interview, whatever. Same with O1 Preview. You need to be aware of the fact that it has long outputs. You need to be aware of the fact that, hey, it's better for code generation. It's better for rewriting. Like you need a lot of awareness of these things. And then if you go into the model drop down, you can pick between GPT-4o, GPT-4 mini. There's all of these tools in the background with like DALI and internet search and code interpreter and custom instructions and so much more. I think, as we've already seen it, it's all going to keep converging into just one thing, into just, like from OpenAI side, it's just chat.com. You state your problem and it finds a way to solve it. If it needs to run, for 2 minutes before it does that, if it needs to use O1 Preview to generate some type of code and then run that inside of something like Claude Artifacts and then bring back the results and then process that with O1 Mini, because that's good enough for the in-between processing. Maybe they're going to have a bunch of fine-tuned models in between that are, specifically good at summarizing, specifically good at translating, rather than one big model. I think there's going to be a lot of routing happening under the hood, even more than there is right now, moving forward. And people will not need the knowledge of these concrete use cases and how to put it to work. It will just do it. It will just figure it out. And that might not be the, AGI that a lot of us are hoping for, but it will certainly be a step closer. And as Sam Altman pointed out many times in interviews, he clearly said that, hey, 2025 is going to be the year where like agents become, usable and available. And I think this is what they mean. It's just combining all of these different techniques, because there's like a dozen different things ChatGPT can do, like dozen different types of tools and models, etc. I think all of that is just going to converge, and it's just going to be like, hey, I built a custom chatbot for you that's going to help you do this on a weekly basis. And you don't have to build the GPT yourself, because it builds it for you and it sets it up with the right tooling and the right model and the right context and everything. And maybe with advanced voice, it's going to interview you for a minute. Maybe it's going to be like, hey, can I ask you a few questions? And you're going to hop on the call. I think, okay, that one is a bit bold right there, the last prediction. But I think a lot of it is going to like converge, and it's just going to become one thing where you state what you want to do. And then eventually it's going to pick up on what you want to do, and it's going to be a little tooltip that pops up of like, hey, this week you've been repurposing social media content 5 times. Would you like me to aid you in this process and build, your custom assistant that will like do this automatically? And you can just say yes, and it will like figure it out for you. I think that's where this is heading. It's going to be less and less input from the user.
Yeah. That made me think about the memory. I think the memory feature is one of the less spoken about but more important features out there. I don't know if you really spend time with it and say, hey, I have a thing that I do with it where I say, this is our like daily update, even though I don't do it every day. And I've trained it to remember this agenda where it's like, hey, wins, challenges, things on the horizon. And each day while I'm going for my walk and trying to get a little exercise and away from the screen, we go through that, and it remembers it. It remembers, what my goals are, where I'm at, tracking to those goals, and we rotate through these different things. So that's, I think, kind of similar to what you're talking about
Yeah.
there. if that memory feature gets better, we'll be way on the road to something like you mentioned there.
Yeah, you bet. And then there's a thing on the horizon that like there's a lot of research on, and nobody has really figured it out yet. But I think there's some real strides there, and that's long-term memory. It's not just being able to save a few thousand tokens to memory, but literally hundreds of thousands or even millions of tokens that get committed to memory, where it's like where it just knows about your week, right? And then eventually knows about your month, and then eventually knows about your entire year, maybe your entire career, whatever. But that's definitely a trend that has been happening, right? That's the one thing that Google Gemini, the Gemini Pro models have on everybody else is a 2 million context window, which means that, surely OpenAI can do the same thing already or soon. They just haven't decided to drop it yet. But yeah, maybe the subscriptions are going to cost more. Maybe like this version that we're talking about, like the first version of like AGI, as whatever you might define that as, is not going to cost $20 a month. Maybe that's going to be, maybe it's going to be 1,000 a month, because you're going to need 5 million tokens of context, and you're going to need all the tooling, and you're going to need to run O1 full on every single message you send. And maybe you're going to need custom TPUs in the background that run it way faster than what they have right now. I don't know. I'm just like, making several like bold calls, but like I think that's not too unrealistic considering what we say. It's just connecting the different dots of what we have right now. It's going to be exciting though. Tokens will not be a problem with nuclear power coming in from chat here. Interesting. Yeah. I mean,
I would just love to be able to scale it up. When for power users, it's like, okay, you already have my credit card, like just, run it
just
up.
take it.
Don't keep me to that $20 a month, or maybe there's certain people that do, but I think that would be very cool if you could just scale it up, like you can on the API side. Being able to do that in the web version seems like it should be doable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But I also think like their strategy is just first, talking to as wide of an audience as possible. I think that's why they've been releasing at the pace they are. So,
Yeah.
people have time to wrap their heads around it. But I think we're getting to a point where there's just too much for mere mortals to really take in, right? Because really to
Yeah.
understand how to craft custom instructions for different scenarios, and to understand all the different tooling, to understand that a code interpreter can run upwards of 100 packages in Python, and what some of them do, to understand the limits and capabilities of the image generation models today, and to understand how all of that plugs into each other and can be kind of like automated on specific triggers, is like that's a lot to ask, especially if you have any sort of life outside of this stuff. That's a lot to ask. So
And it's very far from where it began, as ChatGPT was just one thing, one model. No, it wasn't any of that. And yeah, you're right. I think they are probably confusing a lot of people and alienating people, and realizing they need to simplify it at the same
yeah.
time as they improve it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, yeah, totally. And some great points in chat here. Stavros sharing some real insights on Notebook LM here. For example, saying that, hey, if you go over 10,000 words in total, it gets watered down, and you get better results beyond that, below that. Also pointing out here before that it's great to make existing materials interactive for students. So if you're in education, then there you go. Notebook LM is your friend. I think everybody that's kind of the consensus opinion. So good. So that's some good ChatGPT talk right there. Anybody got some bold predictions here in chat? Anybody got some opinions that they would like to share with us? Like, what do you think are they going to release over the next year? You know, I mean, O1 full is pretty obvious, right? And I guess what I'm talking about here is some sort of orchestration layer that is accessible to consumers. Because right now, we have different frameworks like LangChain, where you can do a lot of this and plug everything into each other, and then one update comes out and everything breaks apart again, and like fair enough. but it does exist, and hey, but yeah, any other predictions here on ChatGPT? Would love to hear it.
The search question there.
We
That's a
didn't
good
even
one.
Yeah, we didn't even bring that up, huh? True. They launched a Google competitor, just as a side note. Yeah.
All I can say is I got out of the SEO business as fast as I could, as I think the AI models are gonna crush it, unless I mean, I don't know. I don't see even the AI results. Does anybody love the AI results from Google? I don't.
Hmm.
Perplexity and ChatGPT is much better, I think.
No, no, no. I think, yeah, I think it's a bit of a mindset shift. It's a different product, right? So like I tried going like full ChatGPT search for a week. I did like the test of like, hey, I disabled Google and set it like installed the extension. I was like, okay, everything ChatGPT, and my finding was that it's way better than I expected, but it's so slow that I wouldn't want to use it anymore, right? Like the 2 seconds of latency, they're really, or sometimes 3 4 seconds. It's like cool, you can find the sites that I need, but like I don't want to sit here for 4 seconds. So that's a speed question, I guess.
Yeah, I use Perplexity almost exclusively for search. I think they really excel at that.
Yeah, I think it is the best. Yeah, you have the pro version.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a good deal on that now. I think they have like a Black Friday $5 for a month of it, and a lot of free
And I love the
codes.
focus features there too, because you can focus it right on. There's a social focus, which you can focus right onto Reddit, and any sort of product reviews. I tend to trust Reddit more than the
Yeah,
review sites that have been spammed. So it's like if you're going to try a hotel or a restaurant or a piece of electronic gear, that's super helpful.
I mean that's one of the best googling techniques, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
like you Google a city and then like Reddit, or like a product and then like Reddit. I 100%
yeah.
agree. I did a stream yesterday for anybody who is intrigued by that and wants to learn more. In a stream yesterday, I kind of revealed a bunch of tips and tricks around different AI search engines, and especially relating to picking products on Black Friday. That was the topic of yesterday's stream. So there's one called
Cool.
GigaBrain that is free, and it exclusively looks at Reddit. It's basically Perplexity for Reddit only, and in my experience, it works a little better for all of these product related things. And it's completely free. So that's one of my tips for anybody curious.
Somebody brought up Grok. What do you think about is Elon gonna like
Oh,
that they've got the most
honestly,
to
I'm a fan. I
yeah.
love the philosophy. Yeah, I love the philosophy of like just like a grown up model that just like does what you tell it to. I think if there's a spectrum of like Anthropic on one side of like super safe and lobotomized, I think Grok is the opponent on the other side, except of all of the fully uncensored models that are floating around. But I
Yeah.
really like the philosophy of that. Like, yeah, just give me the full thing. The LLM is just not that good today. It's clearly subpar compared to some of the other top competitors. Um, but
Yeah,
I hope they get it
they've got.
right.
Do you think there'll be a player in the like one of the major foundational models, frontier models in 2025,
Well,
2020?
considering that pretty much the big llama models and Gemini and 4.0 and Claude, maybe Sonnet is a bit different with the writing abilities and coding, but like they're essentially all the same, right? Like there's not like
Yeah.
it's the tooling around it, it's the platforms, it's as I said the UX that makes the difference. I don't think that Gemini is so much worse than 4.0. I think it's the web interface that makes the difference.
Yeah.
So I think on terms of LLM, hey, like I'm sure they're training the next one, Grok 3. I'm sure that's gonna be on par in terms of the LLM, and then it's gonna be like what they do around it, and all
And
yeah,
you have
I'm
access
liking
to
what I'm
X.
seeing.
Direct access to X is a major thing that no one else really has.
Yeah, and it
Because
is the
that's the one.
prime news platform. Like no matter
Right.
what people say, no matter what political opinion they might have, like it is the news platform on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's as we were talking about people building micro SaaS and smaller pieces. That network effect you can't really replicate. That's one of the things that the software system, the software companies that have that network effect are going to be hard to disrupt, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I agree. So yeah, big potential. I think
That's a
have it
good one.
like. I like it, and especially they're the only ones who like they have the best image generation model out of all the out of everything that's out there. They just took Flux, put it in there, the uncensored, unhinged version, and you can just yeah,
Oh,
you can just do that.
interesting.
It's a super easy way to access it.
I didn't know that. That's cool. I'll check that out.
Yeah, yeah. So you can like literally generate anything in there. So I
Better than
think,
Midjourney?
sorry.
You think it's better than Midjourney?
Um, I I think it's better at specific things and on par. And Midjourney is maybe more artistic and more visually appealing, slightly. I think. Maybe like we have. I know in our community, like right now, we have Dominique who runs all the Midjourney and all the AI art events. He's also moderating here right now. He's very much on the Midjourney side because he loves the artistic aspects of it. Maybe you can also give your take in chat here, Dom. But basically, I think Flux is better at text. That's one, and better at really doing custom faces. So you can train it on a specific person, and in those two, just undisputed, Flux is better. In hyperrealism, I guess it's the same. In portraiture, I guess it's the same. Maybe with the artistic styles, Midjourney is way better. Some of the tooling, Midjourney is better. I would say it's on par. I think both of them are S tier, and they share the first spot for like best image generator.
Cool.
And I think it's cool that Grok kind of just took it and was like, boom, let's integrate it. Now we have the best image generator too, right? Nobody else did that. Like all the other, like Google is doing Imagen free, which is good, but it's not as good as Flux. OpenAI is doing DALI free. It's, I don't know, C tier or whatever. Like it's not that great anymore compared to Flux and Midjourney today.
I think
So
Flux offers you the most, being open source, getting under the hood and really, building it into whatever you need, more than Midjourney. So
yeah,
that's
and now they
cool.
even released the tools. You have an API endpoint that can do in painting. So you can
Oh,
batch
sweet.
process just thousands of images and like really, it's cool. Yeah,
That's powerful.
yeah. Huh. With text, Dom is saying with text it's absolutely better than Midjourney, but there's other models that are even better with text, like Recraft V3. Ah, yeah, that's pretty new too. Yeah, and also he's saying that still prefers Midjourney style. I think when it comes to all the artistic stuff, Midjourney is still king. Cool. So we talked about agentic coding apps. We talked about ChatGPT and the tooling in there and where that might be heading. Maybe as we're on the topic of like creative apps, do you have any opinions or any thoughts on where it might be heading? Because, image generators, I think, found a lot of great use cases with all the fine tuning and product photography and social media content or meme creation. And like, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And in many cases, it replaced stock image libraries for people. I think that's absolutely amazing. AI video,
Yeah.
on the other hand, is more like it's like but the weird uncle or something like that. Like I don't know how to put it. It's like it's cool. It's great. Like you can do these trippy music videos with it, but it's sort of still missing the like. What do you really use this for? You can't do consistent characters. Stuff looks really good, but even with Sora, like what do you
Yeah.
think all of that is heading?
Well, I feel like with that you're going to need multiple tools. And I mean, that's not my area of expertise. And it's one that I wish if I had all the time in the world, I would love to keep up with that. I do a lot with just Runway ML for visual and Midjourney. I do a lot with, and so, there's a workflow that you're probably familiar with is like creating the image inside of Midjourney and dialing it in exactly how you want it. And then adding a little bit of motion to it inside of Runway ML. So that way you have like kind of the most control. I feel like that is a tiny glimpse of how folks are going to really be able to build, true feature length films where there's going to be maybe a tool that just does the animation. So like you have like a dinosaur character and you work with it on how that dinosaur character moves. And then you pull that into another tool that has like the lighting and the background effects or something like that, where it just feels to me kind of impossible to just give it a prompt
Yeah.
and have it create like a scene or a even a movie or something like that that's going to
Well,
be what you really want. I don't know. What do you think?
well, man, let me just tell you something. Like, okay, I'm on thin ice here because I'm not allowed to say anything about this. But basically, I got. Okay, wait. How do I put this in a way that I don't get in trouble? I got early access to a tool that brings a lot of this together, and it's the first one that literally creates stories that are worth listening to from one prompt, and it's quite amazing. Yeah, I'm not sure when they want to like go public with it, but like
Create
it's
stories or videos?
videos, animated
Okay.
videos, and it brings a lot of the different things together, basically. It does the dialogue, it does the animation, it does the scene, it does sound effects, it does the background music. Like it just pulls all of the strings together, and you give it one
So
sentence and it comes up with a multi-minute. Okay, I can't say more, but it's really
well,
cool.
I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out. But my hunch is, just devil's advocate, is that it might be a little bit like the Notebook LM podcast, where they're amazing podcasts. It's like spot on with NPR or whatever podcast you want to listen to. But then people, oh, now we want to change the voices, or now we want to have three people. It's like that. I think there's going to be two sides to all this stuff. Is like the easy, less, not much of a learning curve, and then the people that are all the way on the other end who want to like customize the heck out of every single little part of it.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah,
I'm
so
excited to check that tool out, though, man.
it's definitely, I don't know. I'm not really allowed to say much, but like it's you can customize it.
Oh,
But it's super simple. I think so. It's oriented at consumers, where it's just like, yeah, prompt
yeah.
to story. But it's really cool, and like that would be my kind of like comment on like where this is heading. I think a lot of, because right now, even if you want to create an AI avatar, right, it's so many steps. Like you gotta train a voice model, then you gotta write a script, then you gotta bring the script into the voice model, generate that, then you gotta generate the avatar. Maybe the avatar is linked to the voice model, so you do that in one step. But you gotta train an avatar, you gotta train a voice, you gotta generate a script, then you gotta bring all of that together. And then right now, the best way to do the avatars is doing multiple exports and redoing certain parts so it sounds its best. So all of a sudden, you're spending more time than it would take to just like hit record and do the damn thing. But essentially, like you have to use 4 or 5 pieces of software to get a 1 minute clip of an AI avatar speaking. I don't think that's what the future looks like. I think the future is more like, hey, ChatGPT, I need a video for an explainer video. I need an explainer video on how to do this SOP within our company. And then I'll give it the SOP, and it just, AI Igor is like, hey, welcome to, SOP XYZ. I'm going to show you step by step how to do this. And it switches to the screen record, it presses the buttons, does the whole thing. Boom, here's your video, all recorded, all edited. I don't think that's far off, honestly. So that would be my take on the future of creative tools. I think it's gonna
Yeah,
converge. It's gonna melt into one. Um, yeah.
absolutely. Sooner or later, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But then, just like with, what's a good analogy to pull here? Maybe web design, because like now you have tools like Squarespace and Wix, where it basically has all these
Yeah.
building blocks, and you can just hit a template and like boom, you have a website. I think that's a good analogy actually.
That's a very good one, because you can customize those pretty much as you want, but you can out of the box get something going very quickly.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's
yeah,
interesting.
and then like I think all of these tools, like whether it's in the agentic coding space or it's just LLM platforms like ChatGPT, I think all of this is gonna converge towards that endpoint where it's like, okay, here's 50 cool presets and things that you can do. Which one of these do you want to do? Like, all right, like you want to do, on the agentic coding side, like you want to do a CRM, or do you want to do a communications app, or do you want to do whatever the heck you might be needing? And then
Yeah.
you just hit the preset, and there's like a lady pops up and it's like, welcome, let me guide you through the process. Like, let me ask you these 3 questions and let's move on. Just like with Wix, it's like, okay, what kind of website do you want to do? A portfolio? Do you want to do a blog or this? And then boom, it's done in like a
Anthropic's
minute.
Anthropic started to drop some of these things, I think more in their GitHub, where I think were they called cookbooks or recipes or certain little workflows that
Ah, yeah.
I haven't had a chance to mess around with that, but that's interesting. And maybe that's a whole path for an AI hacker, knowing that people are going to customize it endlessly. You build this like core kernel package for the CRM or whatever, like a WordPress theme, that people can
Yeah.
take and then run with without
Yeah.
doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Uh, y- Absolutely. So that's that's sort of what I've arrived at like mulling this over in my mind like a million times. Like I think it's all gonna for the consumer level apps, right? Like there's the whole like B2B aspect of it, and then there's the whole research aspect of it, like what happens in the scientific community. But I think for consumer applications, I think it's gonna look a lot like the like some no code website builders, or yeah, you're gonna have a lot of templated things. Yeah,
I feel like Replic's
Stavros
closest to that.
saying what I described sounds a lot like showrunner. Yeah, it does sound a lot like that, doesn't it? Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. What else? Romani is saying NVIDIA's new Gen AI tool is not too bad, but it's really pricey for only 15 minutes per month. Yeah, so they're trying to pull a lot of it together. Also, Descript is, but it's just so early for a lot of this stuff. Like it's not really there, I would say, especially in the creative department. I think the creative is going to see a lot of Carol saying lol. Yeah, funny, isn't it? Yeah, also Justice saying there must be some human interaction and customization, or it'll be boring AF. Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I think a lot of it will be like we've talked through in the community, we've talked through like all the different interfaces like that could happen and that makes sense. And I think one that really makes sense is just this passive assistant that lives in your toolbar and sends you notifications whenever you can do something that you might not be aware of. I think that interface makes a lot of sense over the next year. So there is going to be human input, right? It's going to be like, hey, you could do this and this in a simpler way. Are you interested in me doing it for you? And then it's going to take your input. Voice AI
Yeah,
to
they
read
don't do a
PDFs.
good,
Yeah,
there's certain software that does a really good job when new features roll out, but ChatGPT, it's like, oh, it's just hidden in a menu somewhere sometimes, and you have to read about it. They could do a much better job of like, hey, we just released this new thing. Here's 5 ways to use it. That's
yeah.
doesn't happen
They're not good
much.
at the education part, huh? Like they're really not
Yeah,
very good at that stuff. They're like, hey, here's a cookbook inside of a GitHub repo.
right. Yeah,
Like the heck? Like, come on, man. That's where we come in,
yeah.
I guess.
I guess so. That's exactly.
Yeah. That's good. Casey, this has been really fun. I hope you had a good time too. I hope
Absolutely.
chat seems to be enjoying it too. The viewers actually ramped up over time, so they seem to be enjoying this discussion. Where we did some of the more technical stuff and automation, it was like you saw a lot of people come in and they're like, okay, peace out. But like this is a good one.
Love it.
So
Yeah.
so let me ask you, with your content, do you have one like video that you're particularly proud of, or something where you're like, yo, that really worked out, like that, or this could be really, I wish more people saw this, because it's just really good. Do you have something like that?
Yeah, the one I did, a Notebook LM one that has well over 100,000 views. That's been well received. So I guess if you're a fan of Notebook LM, I can point you. My channel is just Blazing Zebra. Should be fairly easy to find.
It's in the
And
description
there,
too.
okay, cool. And there's a Notebook LM one. Uh, there's one from if you're into marketing that I did that I think more people should check out. And let me just pull the exact name. AI marketing system, finding product market fit and go to market. That's from a couple months ago. I don't know. I have a link to that one. If you do anything with marketing, this would be one. Can I just pop that in here?
Yeah, you could just share it in chat. Yeah, that's awesome. So as mentioned, Casey also does more how-to and more tool-focused videos, just like we do on the channel. So check him out. Up and coming YouTuber from our lovely community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for doing all that you do, Igor. You were definitely one of the first channels, maybe, really one of you probably Matt Wolf and you, and then Dave Shapiro, of course, were the first few people I was watching 2 years ago, being like, what the heck am I going to do next, with my career? And
Yeah,
here
we
we
were just
are.
the crazy ones who like hopped on it and we were like, All right, let's share some of this nerdy stuff with the world. Let's go. Like, hey, this is an LLM, and like you can make it write essays about penguins. How about that? Isn't this incredible? It's like, if you
I
think about it,
love
it's a pretty weird thing to do. I've been thinking about this recently, like, just like for me, because as I said, it started like within like a very techie, like it was like a blockchain dev community on Discord that I caught onto ChatGPT onto. Yeah, that I found out about in it. So like that's where I got my info from. And then I turned around and I sat at my desk by myself and I turned on my microphone and my cinema camera, and I like just started blabbering about, hey, like my first video was like, here 5 illegal things you can do with ChatGPT. That was my first one. The second one was like how to use ChatGPT in 2 minutes, and it's basically started with like, what is the meaning of life? So basically, I did a 2-minute video asking this like new online tool what the meaning of life is, and I felt the urge to record that and share it with the world. And then people seemed to like that, I suppose. But it's like it's pretty weird, Like honestly, this is not it's not normal behavior. I should get myself checked out or something. But it's
Probably went pretty viral. Those are some pretty good topics, man.
yeah. Yeah, well, actually, funny thing is the 2-minute video went viral. The first one didn't even do that well, though. Like, but that was the most
Really?
interesting thing to me. Like, the heck they put this out there, because like in the first day, on the first days of release, you could ask it like all the illegal stuff that I don't want to bring up here on stream, but you could
Right.
ask how to like everything relating to whatever. I don't want to even bring it up because it sees the transcripts, but all the illegal stuff, all the homemade XYZs, like you could just ask it and it gave you the step by step on what ingredients to buy and how to assemble it, and just wild.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's one they should have should have checked.
yeah,
Good thing that I don't like how they're dumbing it down in so many ways, but it's good to know that some of that stuff is getting filtered out.
no, I 100% agree. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, you just go to this website and you can ask all of these like wild questions, and it literally gives you a step by step. Like this is it was darknet type of stuff, just freely available. All you need to do is like create an account. And like, the heck? So that was the first thing that caught my attention. Then it was like, hold up, this can write like storyboards and scripts for my job. And then I was like, wait, it can imitate the styles of anybody? Wait, it can
Yeah.
transform everything, all the scripts I have. Like I can pull movie transcripts and transform them into short stories? Really? And yeah, and then I was just like, okay, learn something, reshare with the world, and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was the one thing I was like, I can't not. I'm just was thinking about it all the time. So I'm like, how do I get to mess with this thing 24/7
Yeah.
and still be able to have some sort of a career? So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. It's a good intersection. Well,
yeah,
cool, man. Also, Niklas saying this was the best time, man, and also Carol pointing out, Dan, yeah, do anything now. Remember that the first popular, hyper popular jailbreak. I did like one stream just on that. It was fun too.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting messing with those system prompts.
Okay, maybe one last question here to round things out as we end this stream here today. Any thoughts about big AI companies? Stavros always comes in with the very, very thoughtful and in-depth questions. Seriously, we had some AI ethics talks in the community, and like this man has some fantastic thoughts. Great to have you around, Stavros, for real. And he's asking any thoughts about big AI companies pursuing military projects. That reminds me how ARPANET and GPA's accelerated utility for the military applications. So I believe ARPANET was the first version of the internet, right? They used that for military comms, and then it developed into the internet. So I don't know, man. Do you have any thoughts on big AI companies pursuing military projects?
My thoughts are I don't like to think about it too much because it's probably very little I can do about it. It's scary stuff. It just feels inevitable though. It's like it's almost surprising it didn't come from that area
Yeah.
though. That's I guess my main thought is like I just feel like, OpenAI, it was such a long shot that they just, I guess Ilya probably would be one of the main people who figured it out. But I'm surprised that it didn't start there. So it's weird to think of them kind of adopting it and or whatever, the main labs kind of retrofitting it to that purpose. But yeah, it's kind of freaky. So I
Yeah.
don't have a whole lot on that. I don't know if you do,
Fair
Igor.
enough, man. I actually don't either. That's why I threw it over to you. Like, I haven't really thought about that much. Maybe somebody here in chat has some take. But I think it's a good question, but not one that I have pondered a whole lot.
And it kind of dovetails into the open source. Is that the better way to go? Is that the safer
Yeah.
way to go, or is that the more dangerous way to go? I wish I could answer that question, but
Man,
I can't.
isn't that funny how like the entire narrative around open source was like, hey, we cannot open source this stuff because China will take all of our work. And now China is doing all the open sourcing. Like you're getting all the DeepSeeks, all the Alibaba models, all the Qwens, like all the state-of-the-art models that are coming out under open source licenses from China. Who would have thought that?
Right?
It's
I
pretty funny.
know. So surprising.
Yeah, pretty ironic outcome right there. Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here. Thank you so much, Casey, for hanging out with me and discussing all of this futuristic stuff. Hope to see you again sometimes. Maybe you can hop in and join us in the community for some like ethics discussion or something at some point. We do a lot of cool
I'd love
stuff.
to.
I'll hit you up. I'll
Absolutely.
hit you up.
Please do. Yeah,
Okay.
it was great to connect with everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It was really cool seeing the chat, and really appreciate being here and appreciate all you're doing, man. So thanks so much.
Awesome, man. Honestly, like I enjoy a format like this so much. It was really great to talk to you.
Me
This
too.
is like honestly a pleasure to do this and to be able to discuss these topics. I hope everybody who's here also enjoyed it. So
I'd
yeah,
love to do it again, man, whenever it's appropriate.
cool. All right, man. So I'm gonna switch on over to my main cam here and wrap it up. Check out his channel, link in the description. Bye bye, man. And yeah, there we go. So that's our little like, what is next for these products discussion that we had today. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. This week has been definitely a bit of an experiment, like across all different domains. Like let me just wrap this in like within a minute here. But the idea was essentially bringing a lot of the things that we do within the community to the YouTube channel, because I realized that heck, we run 15 to 20 events in the community every month, and I haven't live streamed on YouTube in 6 months. Like what a shame that is. And I really like enjoy doing these streams, doing these conversations, doing these formats. So it's great to bring it here, and it also seems like this interviewed style of format seemed to be very enjoyable for you guys. So I think this one might be the one that I'll bring more often to the YouTube. I know some of the more technical how-tos, that's a bit problematic because it's so niche, right? You need specific skills. And also like number-wise, I saw the retention on that was not so good, although we picked a really interesting workflow, I think. I don't know. I'll kind of like have a look at all the data from this week. We're doing one more stream, and that is probably my personal highlight. So I would just like to point that out at the end of the stream. If you're not aware, we're running a public challenge this week. And the public challenge is very simple. I've basically put up $1,000 and I asked you one question. How did AI change your life? Please share your story with us. And the best story receives $1,000.
Hello! If you want to be number one, you've got to be odd.
In Monday's stream. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be very interesting. It's going to be sort of a summary of it all. We're going to pick a winner, and you're going to hear some real stories from real people from within this community, within this YouTube AI enthusiast community, on how AI affected their life. So again, thank you everybody to joining us. Can you hear me now? Audio is back. All good. Thank you everybody for joining us today. If you want to check out the previous streams, you can. They're all recorded. I talked about them before. Join us on Monday. And last thing is, if you like what we do here and you want more of it, then the community is where we do that. Plus, we teach skills, we do events, I bring on different founders, I interview them. We had 2 of them in November. There's learning paths, guides, 10 guides a month, all that. You probably already know the deal. We have a Black Friday discount. So check that out. Other than that, next stream is on Monday. There's new YouTube videos this week. Thank you so much for joining me. This was lovely. Please, let's do it again. So much fun. Have a wonderful Saturday. Bye-bye.